This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, recording has been enabled. Okay. So EC2 service, right? This is one of the most important service in AWS, the most widely used by any enterprise infrastructure um, that is a customer of AWS. Okay. So EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. So the name itself reflects that it's basically a compute in the cloud which is elastic. Okay.
Mahi, just before going to the service, I have some doubts on previous session. Just 1 minute only.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you explained that in the region we have multiple AGs, which are
Uh-huh.
some distance will be separated from each other between these AGs. Now my
Right.
question is, uh, the AG is nothing but a physical data center, right?
Correct.
So in one AZ, how many physical DC will be there? One-to-one mapping or one-to-many?
So a DC is, like a logical thing, right? I mean, in terms of it could be one floor, it could be 10 floors, it could be 20 blocks with each with 10 floors, right? I
But
mean,
one block
it
is
can
in
vary.
Hyderabad, first Hyderabad, some area like Istanbul, and some area 5 kilometer apart from Hyderabad. That is the case, or only in the
No,
single building?
it'll be in a single area, like in a single vicinity, some physical boundary.
So what is that boundary limit I'm asking? Means it's in 2 kilometer, 5 kilometer, it's a building separated, or it's in single building?
It
How
can
these
vary,
are?
right? Like for example, if you take any data center, it can be as small as one building, one floor, or it could be as big as 10 blocks, right? 10 blocks, each block with 10 floors. So that whole thing is still called as an availability zone.
Yeah, but that single DC, if suppose single DC is in 10 blocks and the another
Hmm.
DC, the distance between two DCs is suppose 1 kilometer. Is that allowed?
No, it should be, I think they use 50 to 80 kilometers as the minimum. 1 kilometer is basically like you consider it within the same AZ. I don't think even they have like 1 kilometer uh, in India, but yeah, it basically it considered as one DC or one availability zone.
Okay, means two DCs are in one availability zone if separated from 1 kilometer.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Alrighty. So that's the compute in the cloud is your EC2 service. Now let's talk about some of the key features about EC2 before we get into the actual console and what we do there. So one of the challenge that we always see in the on-premise data center is whenever we need to create a server, right? Yes, if you're talking about virtualization, if you have a VMware, Hyper-V, Citrix in your environment, then spinning up servers becomes relatively easy because now you have the physical infrastructure already ready and now you're just creating those virtual servers. But still, right? Still, you have to go through some processes where someone needs to log into the vSphere console and someone needs to create the pick the ISO, figure out the data store, figure out the ESX cluster, ESX host, configuration, number of CPUs, memory. So you have to go through all these, right? And tomorrow, if you want to expand by, maybe you started off with some 30 vCPUs and 300 GB RAM. Tomorrow you want to grow to even higher, like maybe 200 CPUs, right? Um, and let's say your backend hardware infrastructure, the actual physical ESX server, is an older model, right? And that does not have so many CPUs. It does not have so much of RAM. Then in that case, you have to either, like vMotion it to another one, and then, do you try to spin it up. So there's some work, right? It's not on the fly. It's not automated all the time. Um, and it could be disruptive, right? So when you come to EC2, a lot of these things are taken care by Amazon, right? You don't have to think about, hey, does my backend infrastructure have enough, computing power to handle the new server that I'm creating? You don't have to worry about that, right? So that gives you, um, the agility that you just want something, you get it. So that's one of the key feature in EC2 services agility. Another one is on demand. So if you need something, you just ask, right? You just have to go through a certain wizard in the AWS console, and that's it. You just go through that, and your EC2 server is available. So on demand, you need something, you're able to get it immediately. Elastic or flexible, right? Because there are a lot of configurations that you can update, change after the fact that you've created it, right? Let's say you created a server with certain instance type. So there are different instance types in EC2 service depending upon what configuration you need. We'll see all that. So basically, once you create that EC2 instance with certain instance type, and then you realize, oh, the load on my server is actually higher than what I expected. More users are, trying to access it. So I think I should bump up the configuration of my EC2. Then yes, you can do that. Even with storage. Let's say you started off with 500 GB to your EC2 instance, but then you realize you need even more. Go for it. You can on the fly expand your disks. So things like that is what really makes EC2 elastic or flexible. Um, Cost savings. Yes, someone had a question.
Yeah, so is it a like a local disk or the S3 disk?
So this disk is called as EBS, Elastic Block Storage, and it is a local disk. So it is always, for example, in Mumbai, you have three availability zones. Your EC2 is in availability zone one. Your EBS volume should also come from the same availability zone. You cannot attach EBS volume from AZ1 to a EC2 in AZ2. So it has to be local.
Okay.
Okay. Cost savings wise, so this is a debatable, I'd say, like in terms of sometimes you may not get a cost saving. Okay, it all depends. So do not get into this misnomer that cloud is always cheap. No, it is not. So it all depends, right? For example, um, if you have an application in the cloud and you still have your database, let's say in on-prem, okay, you still haven't migrated it to cloud. So application has to talk to your database all the time, right? So apart from the EC2 service or the compute cost, plus the storage cost in the Cloudflare application, you also have to pay for what data is transferred outside of cloud. So whenever, keep in mind that whenever data is transferred outside of cloud, you are being charged for it. So now your application and database are in cloud and on-prem. So obviously there'll be a lot of data that's going on between them. So when you look at the overall cost, you could actually end up paying higher than what you were paying when the application was on-prem. So things like that. Okay, you have to understand that there are other things in the cloud that you would take for granted in on-prem, and vice versa, right? So it depends is the answer. Um, Now in terms of maintenance, right, and operability, in terms of maintenance and operability, since the infrastructure is all maintained by Amazon, along with making sure if there is a, let's say your EC2 instance is sitting on one of the physical server and the physical server went down. Automatically, they will try to spin up your EC2 instance on another hardware. Okay, so they have those fault tolerance mechanisms with which even if one hardware fails, they'll try to spin up on another hardware. So that they will do. So that's taken care by them. Um, Even in terms of network, if, let's say the physical hardware has multiple NIC cards, so if multiple one of the NIC card fails, you still will not have lost access to your EC2 instance, right? Because there are multiple NIC cards, and then they will have some procedures to replace those NIC cards. Same thing with you know uh, this EBS storage, right? So there are some fault tolerance or high availability techniques that they use to ensure the customer does not have to lose his EC2 instance. Okay, so that's the maintenance and operability part. I think I
So
covered the key takeaways. Yes.
every EC2 instance will by default having this fault tolerance capacity.
Which capacity?
Fault tolerance capacity.
Fault tolerance within the hardware failures. Yes.
So every EC2.
Yes.
Okay.
That's by design, irrespective of instance type.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So this is, I guess, the five key takeaways. Yeah, let's actually get into the console and we'll start doing some practicals as well. Okay, just give me a minute, guys, while I log in.
So are we covering the root account, normal account, and the roles, all these things, right?
Yeah, that will come under IAM.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, share my screen. All right. I hope you guys can see it. So once you log into the Amazon console, right? Um, it's very straightforward actually. This is your landing page, the console landing page. Here you have all the different services that Amazon offers, right? You could also like just find your service like EC2 here. I can just find it this way, or I can search for a particular service name, something like this, or I could also search it here. Plus here to the left, you will see.
When you enter this console, the by default region is selected as US East 1. Is it every time or it just because of you have selected previously and it's just caching?
Yeah, it's what you've logged out as previously is what will get you logs in.
But if we logged out and logged in again,
Uh-huh.
it is
Uh-huh.
giving the same US East 1 or we have to select the region?
No, for example, if I was working in Mumbai, right? And then I logged off. My region was Mumbai, and then I logged off. And then I log in back, it will show you Mumbai.
Now you have
So
selected
whatever,
North Virginia. Okay, could you please log out and
okay.
Now current is North Virginia.
Yeah, current is North Virginia.
Good. We cannot see your screen.
Okay, one second. Let me just key in the password here.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm resharing. Yeah, you see it? Do you see it?
I can see in North Virginia, but if
Yes.
I want to change the that region, North Virginia to
Okay.
Mumbai, we can change that, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have
you can
selected
change
North
it.
Virginia because the most of the services are there in East Coast, right? East and
Yeah,
West Coast.
that's the actual reason. I
Okay,
mean, most of
please
this
go
is
ahead.
the biggest region in terms of scale, in terms of services.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So yeah, you could use all these options, and to the left you will see the history. So right now I'm in the console home, that's why it's showing up. And as you start using services, the most recently used services will pop up here. So you could select it from there as well. I mean, you got multiple different ways you could get to it. So yeah, I'm gonna click on the EC2 to get into the EC2 landing page. So EC2 service, in terms of its UI, it has been updated. So the design is updated. Obviously, it has been made better than what it was before. It had the old UI, but now they've like made it more colorful and easy to look at things. Okay. So in here, let's work on the instances section first. So let me go to instances. So obviously, right now I do not have any instance. Okay, an instance is nothing but a virtual server in Amazon. It's called as an instance, right? So obviously I don't have anything here, but I can create an instance. Okay,
A virtual server means you are saying about VM.
it's like it's a virtual server. Yeah, it's a virtual machine you can say because it's
Yeah.
running
Then
on a
EC2
hardware
is
and
also EC2 is also VM. Then what is the difference between EC2 and instance? Because
they just call it differently, right? They don't want you to use the virtual server as the name. They've they've come up with a different name,
okay.
right? So once you click on the launch instance, so here is where you see all the AMIs. AMI or Amazon Machine Image is like a template. It's the OS template. So as you see here, there are so many OS templates. There is Amazon Linux 2. So yeah, there is a Linux by Amazon. And then there is Amazon Linux 1. This is a version 1, version 2. And then you have Red Hat 8. You have SUSE Linux, Ubuntu. You'll also find Windows here. Um, you'll find Windows with SQL servers. So these are all templates that Amazon is providing, which you can automatically pick. Okay, these are the standard templates that Amazon is providing. And here you can see some of them are free tier eligible, some of them are not. That means, I mean, they basically will be charged for if you spin them up, right? Like the deep learning, the SQL servers, they are not part of the free tier eligibility. Okay, again, all that means is when you create an account with AWS, right? Amazon gives 750 hours of free EC2 creation. Okay, you could run your EC2 instances up to 750 hours for your account as part of free tier eligibility. And there are restrictions like you could only use AMIs that belong to free tier. You can only select instance types that belong to free tier. So if you are within that restrictions, you can use up to 750 hours of free EC2 instances. Okay. So yeah, I would
If
always
suppose
recommend that you
if
pick
suppose I
the
have created
free tier
account
eligible
in
ones. Yes, go
Mahi,
ahead.
if suppose I have created account on January 2018, but I have
Mm-hmm.
not created any EC2 instance till date,
Okay.
then what is the means usage till this date?
They give you 12 months of free tier usage, and if your account, completes 12 months, then for everything that you create, you are being charged.
Okay, then
Yeah.
I
But
have to
again,
look for that.
just try to
I have to
just
disable
try
that
to
account
you can.
and I have to create another one. Okay.
Yeah.
And one more question, they have given free eligible for Red Hat. So once we launch
Mm-hmm.
this and we create an instance, once we log into using SSH, so
Mm-hmm.
this Red Hat is if suppose I want to install one the package, it will definitely
Okay.
ask for a subscription. So that instance is this inbuilt subscription is there, or we have to ask for AWS to provide a subscription for that.
For Red Hat, if you're talking about the Red Hat satellite subscription, then yeah, because that is part of your licensing, you won't get that.
No, I'm not talking about like Red Hat satellite, only normal Red Hat
Okay.
8 or
Yeah, you
so by
can. No,
default.
so the general rel yum repositories you can access. Yes.
Okay, means we can install that package. It will not ask for please this system is not registered.
No,
Please
no.
register to the
It'll
Red
work.
Hat. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Means we can download the packages from internet as well, right?
Yes. You
Okay,
absolutely can.
thank you.
Okay. Plus, you could also search for, like, if you're looking at Windows, right? Because, Windows is at the bottom. You can search for it, and then it'll sort it by what you want. Okay. Alrighty. So this is what you have as a quick start, AMIs. But apart from this, you can see there are other AMIs as well. There is My AMIs. So in the My AMI section, you will find any templates that you created, right? For example, maybe there is a custom OS that you have created in your on-premise data center, and you would like to use that instead of picking the one from Amazon. You want your own AMI, your custom AMI to be used for building the OS. Then you could absolutely create one. Okay, I will show you how to do that, but that's possible. Marketplace is again, it's pretty much like how you have Play Store or App Store, in different mobile operating systems. So this is the marketplace where different vendors, like, either it be Juniper, F5, um, you know, LAMP. So there are a lot of different products from different contact center. So as you see, right, there are so many products available from different third-party vendors. So all you have to do is, if let's say you want to run a firewall service in EC2, you can pick this one, and then automatically the AMI that Juniper has created is what is picked, and the server is created with this application already installed along with the OS. So now we are talking about the OS plus the application already bundled into a template, and then you're using the template. Obviously, since you're using that application, you will be charged for it, right? So there will be this cost. As you can see, everyone has their own separate cost. So it's $0.55 per hour or $2,280 per year. So here only the certified applications that you know associate with Amazon, and then they get themselves set up in the marketplace, is what is available here.
But
Now,
how the compatibility is maintained, means all these uh, applications like Juniper and all these things are, whether these are compatible with the specific OS or not. Means
That
all these
is
applications
already
are
taken
compatible
care.
with all these templates.
No, the template comes with OS plus the application, right? So if I am the vendor, I would have already done my testing that, hey, my application, does it work on this OS? And is it updated? I would do that testing, right?
No, I'm talking about these AMIs. These AMIs are nothing but only OS, not application, correct?
No, no, no. It's a OS plus application also. So like if we
Okay,
look
means
at
software
Juniper as an
appliance.
example, it's a template, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at Juniper as an example, it says firewall, right? So it basically comes with OS and the application in the template. So when I select this and I create it, I'll get the OS and the application. I don't have to go through the application installation separately.
If suppose I will go to the Microsoft Windows, then there
Mhm.
will be OS Windows. But what application inbuilt there will be?
Not for Microsoft. There you would have only OS.
Okay, means AMI is combination of, there will be OS as well as OS plus applications.
Yeah, just think about AMI as if you have heard about a VMware template, right? A VM
Yeah,
template. A VM
yeah,
template could be just the, sometimes depending upon your company, they might create a template for different OSs. They might also create a template which will have agents already installed or browser like Chrome or Firefox already installed, right? So when
yeah.
you deploy using that template, you will get the OS plus the applications or agents. Or if the template is only the ISO, then you'll only get the OS, right?
Right.
Same logic here.
Got it.
Yeah.
It might
The
be
same,
OS, it might be OS plus applications.
correct. It's what the
Yeah.
template has, right? So that's the marketplace. Now, when you come to community, the community is like anyone. Okay, there is no restriction. There is nothing that you have to register with Amazon, and then it's like, okay, I have my own AMI that I just created. Maybe there is a requirement, right? Right. Okay, someone is interested in having a AMI that has Firefox browser already installed in a Windows 2016. That's the use case. A Windows 2016 OS plus Mozilla Firefox browser because that's my standard, and I don't want to install Firefox on every Windows server I spin up manually after the fact that I created it. No, I want it to be part of the template. So then I can create my own Windows 2016 server with Firefox installed, and then create a template out of it. And then I will publish that template in the community because if someone else wants to use the same template, they can pick from my AMI and then they can use it. So community is like all of the users can share their AMIs for free, right? Like obviously, if Firefox is free, um, so I'm not there's no license component in it, right? So anyone can use that AMI, and they are only paying for what they are using from Amazon, but not for the AMI. I'm not paying for them basically because they're using my AMI. No, it's just a template that they are using. So as you can see here, there are how many? 128,000 AMIs. So if some vendors are unable to make it to the marketplace, maybe because there's certain things that they have to opt by and then abide by, right? When they have to go in association with AWS. If they don't have to do that, they can always publish it here. And they can tell their customers that just search within the community AMIs. They'll have to give the name or every AMI, right, will have a unique ID. It's called the AMI ID. So they can give the AMI ID or they can give the AMI name and we just search for it and then we can start deploying that template. So
So
even
the
I can
difference between
publish one to
AWS,
community AMI, right? Like
so difference
I
between
can
AWS
create one.
marketplace and my difference between AWS Marketplace and Community AMI is nothing but if you created one of the template and we deploy that in the marketplace or the Play Store,
Hmm.
when the customer downloads it, it says that AMI is chargeable, right? But if you download the community or if you use the template from Community AMI, it's not chargeable; it's free.
Yes, that plus, like I said, right, the marketplace is more the certain things that they have to abide by. AWS will have their own rules to say, okay, you have to meet these requirements to be associated in the marketplace. But then community AMIs, there is no restriction. Anyone can upload whatever you want. There is no process
Now,
defined.
is AWS like verifying the security of these AMIs, these community AMIs?
Not for community AMIs.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
why, right?
But
That's where the
for the marketplace, they must means they have been
correct.
testing all these things on all perspectives because these are the applications or these are the templates which are used by the customers and they may affect their environment. That's why they are testing.
Correct. So it all depends on, like, for example, if you're working with some XYZ vendor and they say, hey, our AMI is in the community, then you basically have to trust the XYZ vendor, right? Because they have to give you the right AMI, and it's not an Amazon if it's in community.
Right.
Okay. So every AMI will have a unique AMI ID. And then a quick thing here. So this is virtualization type. Um, Previously, the virtualization type was PV, para virtual. Now it is HVM, hardware virtual machine. So this is just the difference in virtualization type. This is just for interview questions. If someone asks, hey, what was the virtualization type before? You can say it was PV, para virtual, and now it is HVM, hardware virtual machine. Things have become more efficient in terms of abstracting those physical resources, in terms of making them uh, more efficient uses of CPU, more efficient uses of memory compared to PV. HVM is better. Okay. Now, I don't think you will see any PVs. I have not seen any PVs in the recent, few months. It is all HVM. So pretty much any AMI that you pick, they should all be HVM. There were PVs before, but not anymore.
Mahi, how will you know that this they have changed their console and previous version is 1.1, now current version is 1.2 or 2.1? How will you know that?
They don't want you to know that, right? Because they only want to give only what is right now available. They won't give you options of different versions. No,
No, no, right. You are right. Which means only the current version is they are maintaining. They are not maintaining the previous versions.
no. Like from the UI standpoint, in some services, they, just during that switch phase, right? They might tell you, okay, if you want to go back to the old UI, you can click here, but that will only be for the temporary period, maybe
But
some three
the
months, 4 months of time. After that,
yeah,
they will not allow you to go back to the previous console.
if suppose some of the because the AWS has came long back, means 5 to 6 years ago. If someone has created the EC2 instance in 2015
Hmm.
using PV, and now this instance is currently running, suppose in 2019 as well, because it is a critical VM they are using. It's not been down since 4 years because it is a critical
Okay.
EC2 instance. Then they want to they are facing some issues for this EC2 instance for the performance issues, and
Uh-huh.
they find that there is some issue with the PV and they want to migrate to HVM. Can we do that?
Right. Absolutely. And what Amazon has done is, as this they do for in any service, such things happen, right? Because when you're going over the period of years, old technology, will fade out, and new technology is what they will also push customers to use. So if you were a customer who were using PV, they should have sent a field notice that, hey, this is happening, and we will stop supporting PV. Hence, you have to go, to HVM. Then the customer will be engaged because he is now aware of it, right? And the process will be basically he has to create a new EC2 instance with HVM. He can remove the EBS volumes, okay, from the previous instance, and then attach the EBS volumes to the newer instance.
It will take some downtime. On the fly
Yeah.
activity will not be there.
No. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, the EC2 normally does, sorry, AWS normally does that. If there is any such transition happening, any service, they will try to send that notice to the customers so they are aware.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you faced this kind of issue in your during your day-to-day activities?
No, we started off with HVMs because PV was, I mean, HVM is there since a while actually. It's there since
Okay.
more than 4 years, what I know. More than 4, yeah, more
Okay.
than 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. Please go.
So that's the AMI part. Again, we will see how
What
to create
was
an AMI in the next section.
what
Yes.
is the ENA? ENA enabled? Yes.
So ENA is your elastic networking. So again, I will talk about this ENA and root device types because they are a little um, different in terms of the context. So I will get back to you on these two. Okay. Alrighty. So let's pick an AMI. I'm gonna create an Amazon Linux 2 AMI. So simply I have to say select. Okay. So here is where you have all the instance types. So as you can see here, there are different instance types, right? From micro to general to memory optimized to compute optimized. And then there are generations for each of them. So for example, if I pick compute optimized, right? You can pick either the current generation or all the generations. So let's look at this. Obviously, compute optimized means you will have more CPUs in this instance. So every instance in compute optimized will have more CPUs than the general instances, right? And the ratio between CPU to memory is going to be high. That means you'll have actually more CPUs per 1 GB of memory if you wanna rate it that way. Now, if you see, each of the instance type is given a unique name. Like C5N dot large, extra large, 2 extra large, 4 extra large, 9, 18 extra large. So the C is indicating the compute optimized. 5 is indicating the generation. That means there were 4 generations before, C1, C2, C3, C4. So now we are in the 5th generation of compute optimized. And then you have N or D. They just indicate that they belong to different families. Okay. And then the actual specification of the instance. Is it a large instance? Is it an extra large? Is it an 18 times extra large? Right? Similarly, if you see, there is D. This is another family type. And then you have 12 extra large, 9 extra large, 4 extra large. And then these were the previous ones actually. These are the older generations, right? C4. So obviously, you would prefer to pick the latest generation, but if there are certain cost implications that, like, hey, a C5 I'm getting it for $100, but a C4 I'm getting it for $80, and C4 meets my requirement. Obviously, Amazon will try to give you at a lower price because it's an older generation, right? So if you want to pick that opportunity, you can go for a C4, but you're like, hey, I need the latest and the greatest, then the latest generation is what you can pick. So I feel like I can also go back to some of these older generations like C3, C1. Now, again, you will only find these maybe for the next couple of years because as the hardware keeps aging, that is supporting these older generations, right? Once it fades out, then these options will be removed, obviously. Now, there is one way in which you can remember all these families, because sometimes in interview they can ask you, what alphabet corresponds to what instance type, is it a computer optimized, memory optimized, etc. So there is a small trick actually to remember that. For example, Dr. McPix. EC2. Hmm. Okay, one second, guys. I need to find that. Find Dr. McPix. Okay, this one. Okay, so here you have, the family, speciality, and use case, right? So here under the family, just read it like this, okay? Fight, F-I-G-H-T, fight, DR doctor, McPix, okay, MCPX, McPix, fight, doctor, McPix. That's the mnemonic that you can use to remember these, okay? So for example, F means it's a field programmable gate array. That's the specialty of the F type family. I stands for IO, right? So read, write IO, so high speed storage. G is graphic intensive, so that's your GPU type. H means high disk throughput. So when you need instances, such as running HDFS or map or these high data analytics workloads that need a lot of throughput, you have to go with this. T T stands for traditional. I think of T as traditional. That means it's a low cost, general purpose kind of instance type. D is dense storage, so data warehousing kind of workloads. R, think of R as RAM. So RAM is memory, so it's memory optimized. M, think of M as most wanted. Okay, M is most wanted. That means it's a general optimized general purpose, which is most widely used. Okay, you will see that M is what is most widely used in the AWS ecosystem, because cost wise, CPU wise, memory wise, storage wise, it's all balanced. Okay, so most of the general applications can go into this. C, obviously C stands for compute, so compute optimized or CPU optimized. P, think of P as um, processor optimized, right? So you need more GPU kind of for your Bitcoin mining, machine learning, or algorithms. X, again, think of X as um, memory. I don't have any money for this. X is just memory, and it's memory optimized. So like if you look at R, right, it's memory optimized, but X is even more. So there's even more memory or RAM configurations available in the X type family. So yeah, you can use just this to remember what are the different families and what each of this corresponds to. It's fight, doctor, McPix. Okay, you don't have to remember this for your day-to-day stuff, but exam I've seen this ask, so it's good to know. So coming back to our EC2 instance wizard. So there are so many, right? And if you look at the columns also, there is number of CPUs for that EC2 instance type. What is the memory? What is the instance storage? Is it EBS optimized? What's network performance? And does it support IPv6? So You know these virtual CPU and memory, right? EBS basically means their EBS volume. So there is this concept called as EBS, which stands for Elastic Block Store. So here you can create volumes of different sizes and different storage types depending upon your I/O requirement. We will see in detail about that. So basically, it's saying that it supports EBS only. So whatever volume types are available in EBS, you can pick from that. And in here, as you can see, some of these instances they only support SSDs. So when you're picking these, right, they come with these default SSDs. They are dedicated to that particular instance. And on top of that, you can create more drives if you want, right? EBS from EBS, you can create more drives. You can attach more data disks to each of these instances. Network performance, as you can see, some of them have up to 10 gigabit, some of them have up to 50 gigabit and 100 gigabit. So again, it's all software controlled, right? So, usually your physical servers will have a lot more, and they're software controlled per EC2 instance as to how much it needs to, give at a maximum, right? So that's why you see up to. So depending upon these, you can pick one. If your application is heavily um, network intensive, right? That is, it will push a lot of I/O back and forth. Then you also have to consider these things. Now, does this instance type support IPv6? Okay, so IPv6 again is supported. I think for most of the instances supported. For some old generation ones, it's not supported. So yeah, you should see a lot of yes here. Okay, so coming back, right, to all instance types. So this is where I am. And yeah, if you see here, it's highlighting the free tier eligible. So a T1 micro and a T2 micro are the only ones that are eligible for free tier. So I will pick this.
Mahi,
I'll pick the T2.micro. Yes.
Mahi, I have called for near about 5 to 6 minutes. Is it possible for a break or you will continue? 5 minutes only.
Um,
5 minutes only.
sure. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, please.
Okay, Bennett, if you want to take a quick break.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. Sorry, are you on a break? Or?
No, I'm here, Bennett. Go ahead.
No, just question that. So this is like Christmas week. So what will be like our next schedules for this week?
Um, so today is this, and would would you be able to make it on Friday, maybe if not the weekend?
Uh, Not Friday, but Saturday
Okay.
and Sunday I'm available. Yeah.
Okay. So that's your Friday and Saturday, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, let's do it. Let's do it on weekend again.
Yeah.
That should work.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, please go ahead.
Hey guys, okay, alrighty. So here I'm gonna pick the T2 micro instance type because that's the free tier eligible. I have one CPU and 1 GB RAM. And that's enough for our functionality purpose. So you gotta select that and say next, which will then take you to this configure instance screen. So here, not going to talk about all of these at the moment. Okay, I'm only going to talk about this field here. It says number of instances. So you can say one, or you can give, how many ever number that you want. It'll create the number of instances with the same template AMI that we picked. If that's your use case, so you could select the number of instances you want. So let's say I say 4. So 4 instances will be created with the same instance type and the same AMI. Okay, but I want to go with 1. Right now, one more thing. So what we are creating at the moment falls under a on-demand EC2 instance. So there are actually 3 types of EC2 instances. Let's go back to our presentation. So here it is. So there are 3 types of EC2 instances. One is on demand, second one is reserved, and third one is spot. So what we are doing right now is the on demand. That means you need an instance now, you are able to provision it. That's an on demand. Now reserved is like a contract. So this is a contract that you have to get into with Amazon, where there is a 1-year contract and there's a 3-year contract. So you give a commitment to Amazon saying, hey, I will keep this instance up and running, or I will own this instance, or I will reserve this instance for 1 year minimum. That means now you're getting into a contract with Amazon. Now, since you're getting into that contract, Amazon will give you back, right? Means some favor. So that is in terms of cost. So what would cost, let's say, $10 per hour on an on-demand instance may cost you only $6 per hour when you go for reserve, because now you're giving a long-term commitment to Amazon that, hey, I'm gonna pay you for 1 year. I'm gonna keep this instance for 1 year, which means I'm gonna pay you for 1 year or 3 years. But with on-demand, there is no such commitment, right? You just create the server now. Once you're done with the testing, you want to delete it, you delete it. No one is stopping you. Okay. So reserved is something that you have to get into an agreement with Amazon. Again, there are different things to it in terms of, let's say the per year cost is accounting to some $10,000, right, for reserved per year cost. So there are again partial payments, full up payments. So if you do a payment full of, the whole, instead of $10,000, they might give it to you for $8,000 because you're paying the whole amount upfront. If you do some partial payment, right, then you may not get that discount. So there are things like that. Okay. It again varies from customer to customer for what discounts they want to give and all that. So the relationship that you already have with Amazon also matters in reserve. So based on all that calculations, they basically give you a price, which is definitely much cheaper than a on demand. At least I think it's at least 30 to 40% cheaper. Okay, guys, I will be back in 5 minutes. Okay, I need to just go. Okay, I'll be back.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
Janice, do you have a job today?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm currently working side by side.
Okay. Okay.
I'm discussing one issue. So you're discussing about the Christmas vacation. What is my saying that we have?
No, like I said, I'll be like during the weekdays. Might not be possible, but I'm available on like Saturday and Sunday.
Okay,
So if we can continue like the regular weekend classes, I'm okay with that.
okay.
Mm. Is it okay with you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm okay with any day because I'm working from home.
Okay.
Are you on H1 or L1?
H1, yeah.
Yeah, great. How many years are you there?
Actually, I came on student. Now I'm on H1 for last 6 years.
So you may have some green card or PR.
It's a long wait.
So six
Uh,
after 5 years, actually, we the H1 has to be renewed, right?
every 3 years you have to renew.
Yeah.
Mm,
So you have renewed again for again next 3 years, so it will
yes,
be for 9 years.
yes, yeah.
Yeah,
But
great, man.
but if you change your job in between, like in a different location, then you have to file amendment. You have to get again approval for that. So there
Okay.
are
So you are there for since from the first, it's near about 6 years, right? Same company.
yes. So like I'm like my employer is same, but the client is changing.
Yeah, that's then it's like a company change, right?
Yeah, yes.
Great. Yeah, but it's because the currently H1 is very rare. You cannot get H1 and B1. They are mostly rejecting.
Yeah. I mean, they are very strict with the paperwork right nowadays.
Yeah. So you're working in LA or CA?
No, I'm in Texas right now,
Texas.
but
Okay.
yeah, but like after New Year week, I have new project, so I have to move to like East Coast, Pennsylvania side.
And you have some work on cloud as well, right? That's why.
Like yeah, so in the new job, they did mention in the job description, yes, so there is some cloud work as well.
Great.
So hopefully I can like apply all of this knowledge to there.
Yeah, definitely.
So are you in like Bangalore or which
No, no,
part of?
I'm based in Pune,
Oh, okay, okay.
and
And
you are based from Gujarat, right? Or
yes, yes.
Gandhinagar,
Vadodara. Yeah.
Vadodara. Okay.
Pune has so many IT industries now, right? Nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. Pune has so many IT industries.
So have you ever visited here?
No, because we don't have H1 and B1.
No, okay.
That's
Because
very difficult.
yeah,
Many
some
times it's
companies
rejected.
they do like send some people. Like,
It's actually project requirement is there, but most of the
mm,
time rejected the visa. That's the reason.
okay, okay.
And many times they are not filing. We have to wait for queue.
Yeah, so it's every year they have limited quota
Yeah.
per company per country. So
Have you applied green card?
yes, but that process is very slow. So until I get a green card, I have to renew H1 every 3 years.
But this renewal process is done by company, or you have to come to India and again fill all these details and you have to give the interview.
No, like yes, so company will file for renewal. So I'll get a like a renewal approval letter from the USCIS, and then for the visa stamping, I have to come India or outside US for visa
But
stamping.
for the renewal, there is a lottery system, or they will fly
No,
yearly
for
approval.
renewal there is no lottery system. It's just a first time you have to get a H1. Once you get a one-time H1, then you just renew every 3 years.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Hey Mahi, yes.
Okay, so all right, so the on-demand reserved, right? So reserved, like I said, is a contract that you get into. Um, in Spot is actually a little interesting. So with Spot, what happens? Think of Spot as bidding. So what Amazon does is to basically attract, more customers who mostly are using the EC2 instances for maybe a short term. Maybe they want to um, run some analytics for some time, maybe a couple of days, and then just get the output. And now they don't need the EC2 instance anymore. So for those short-term tasks, right, they need some instances, but they cannot really afford, like the total cost of an on-demand or reserved. They need something even more cheaper. Now, instead of just keeping the hardware idle, right, they could at least give something like this to, get some money, right? That's how this whole Spot thing came into spotlight. What happens is, let's say the cost of on-demand is $10 per GB. For the same EC2 instance type, um, they provide a bid price in Spot. Okay, they provide something called as a bid price. So let's say Amazon has decided the bid price to be $2 per hour, which absolutely is, right there, right? It's what 80% cheaper already. Okay. So now, sorry, it's not the bid price, this is market price, market spot price. They decide as $2 per hour. Now we all have to bid. I can also bid. I can say, okay, my bid price, obviously, what we are used to is if the market price is $2, we try to bid just a little above, right? Like maybe a $2.1. So let's say I bid as $2.1 per hour. Since the bid price is higher than the market price, they will allocate a instance for me. Okay, they'll allocate an instance for me, and then I can use the instance for what I would have paid $10 per hour. Now I'm only paying $2.1 per hour, so I'm super happy. So I will use the instance. But there's one big gotcha here. If Amazon decides that there is more demand for this instance type via Spot, right? So I will try to increase my market spot price, which was $2, to now $2.5. So Amazon will increase the market spot price to $2.5, which means that is greater than your bid price. Your bid price is only 2.1, but the current market price is 2.5. So Amazon will delete your instance. If the market price goes beyond bid price, your EC2 instance is basically, we call it terminated or deleted. That's the gotcha.
So
So you
will
have
they
to be very careful. Yes,
so will they
go ahead.
let us know in advance like we are going to delete
No,
or
no, they will not let you know in advance. Once the market price goes beyond bid price, they will terminate your instance. So that's the gotcha, right? So that's why if you're only like, hey, I am just using it for this purpose, and it's not really for enterprise data and keeping it too long, right? Just you could use spot price at a very cheap price. Now, one more thing you can do, right? I mean, instead of bidding just close to what the market price, bid a little higher, right? I mean, anyways, you'll end up paying $10 if you go for on demand. So go for spot price, a spot instance, and bid a little higher. Maybe bid for $4 instead of $2.1. So now you're even a little more safer, right? The chances of the market price reaching $4 is less. So you will have your instance running for longer duration. So that's the trick that you can use. You can bid higher. Okay. So
And
that's about spot.
in on demand, they will not delete the instance if we are
No,
using free storage until 12 months, right?
correct. The free tier applicable, yes. And free tier is only applicable on demand. Reserved and spot, it's not applicable. So if I were an enterprise, right, I would always prefer going into a reserved instance. So I have that one, I have the lesser cost and long-term commitment. If I need instances just to test out something, just to um, for the very short-term kinds. Plus, it's not production data, which means even if the underlying EC2 instance get terminated, I can still recreate that data, or I have it somewhere else that I can copy over. If that's the kind of use case, go with Spot. If you're like, hey, I want to test something before actually getting into a reserved instance, I would like to test if the application works as expected in the cloud, right, for a few months. So then go for a on-demand. But in this course, we will be using on-demand throughout, whenever we need EC2. All right, so now let's go back to our wizard. Okay, so what we have here is the on-demand. Now you can request for spot instances, which is by selecting this, and you can see it's saying that for each of the availability zone, this is the cost, the current market price, $0.0035 per hour, right? And this is for that EC2 instance, T2 micro. Now, if I pick a different instance, this value will vary. Now I have to give my bid price, my maximum price. This is the maximum I can pay. So let's say I give 0.001, no, 0.001. I'm giving yeah, almost more than double, like triple the price, right? So when I say next and eventually go whenever now that it meets the requirement, it will create an instance. But usually it takes time. It's not like immediate. Now if I bid for a price that is close to 0.0035, and if this price goes beyond that, then my instance will be terminated. So I don't want that, so I'm not going to use that. Okay. Remaining else, leave it as default for now. We'll get back and talk about this as needed. Next is your storage. Okay, so we'll have to spend some time here. So storage in Amazon is basically your EBS, Elastic Block Store. Okay. In EBS, there's certain features that EBS provides. Okay. I'm gonna open a few documents here. Give me a minute.
In EBS, the data, it's a raw learn or it's a automated file system, like share.
It's like a raw disk.
Okay.
Where are you? EPS. Okay. Let me share this. All right. So a few quick high-level details about EBS. EBS volume is local. That means if you have in Mumbai you have three availability zones and you create an EC2 instance in AZ1, your EBS has to be in the same AZ1. You cannot map EBS volume in one availability zone to an EC2 instance in another availability zone. Not possible. They have to be in the same AZ. We can modify the size of root and data volume. So what is root, what data? Root volume is nothing but like in Windows, C drive is a root volume. Okay. In Unix, slash is the root volume. So basically, it's the volume where the OS is installed. That's the root volume. Okay. Data volumes is everything else, right? Any other file system that you create or any other drive that you create in Windows are all data volumes. We can change EBS volume type and is non-disruptive. That means, again, we'll see this. So basically, there are multiple backend storage types, right? Like there are a disk EBS volumes that are supported by SSD and EBS volumes that are supported by HDD, right? Depending upon the performance profile, there are different options of EBS volumes. So currently, let's say you've selected EBS volume type as within SSD, there is something called as general purpose. Okay, general purpose SSD. If you select that particular EBS type right now, and then later you realized, oh, maybe the performance requirement is higher. I should have something like a provisioned IOPS, right? So you can do that shift. You can change the volume type and it's non-disruptive. So we'll talk about snapshot and all that. So there is, okay, let's actually talk about the different EBS types. Okay, let me pull that document up. Where is EBS? EBS. But just before we get into EBS, this is like a nice thing that just gives some high level comparison. So if you see, right, on demand versus a reserve versus spot. So reserve usually you can get up to 40% savings, spot where you can get up to 80%. So what would have cost a $5,000 per month in an on demand is only costing you 3,000 if you go for reserved, is only costing 1,000 if you go for spot. So like that's the um, cost benefit that you get. Okay, let me actually open the EBS volume types. Where is this EBS volume types? Okay, here it is. Okay, so as you see here, you have solid state drives and then you have hard disk drives. So there are two categories of EBS volumes. Under solid state, again, you have two types. You have general purpose SSD, also called as GP2, and then provisioned IOPS. So general purpose SSD, as the name indicates, it gives you the it still gives you the SSD class performance, but it still is limited in terms of a higher performance, right? If you need performance in the range of 50,000, 60,000 IOPS, right? That those many operations per second. Then you have to go for provisioned IOPS. That gives you up to 64,000 IOPS. Whereas general purpose SSD can give you up to 16,000 IOPS. So again, with an SSD, you have those two categories. With an HDD, you have throughput optimized, and then you have cold HDD. So cold HDD is the cheapest of all, and it's the lowest of performance compared to all. And plus, the advantage is you get it at a very less cheaper cost, right? Throughput optimized is slightly higher than the cold HDD. It is optimized for throughput hungry applications like your video streaming or uh, anything that basically does large block reads kind of an application here. Sometimes even your data warehousing, right, when they are trying to read the data to run reports, run queries, they are throughput optimized. So for those kind of workloads, this EBS volume type will be helpful. So you have these four categories. Okay, so whenever you're creating an EBS volume, you have to pick from these four. Now there is one more that you don't see it here, which is I think it may be here, or have they removed it? Oh yeah, it's here. Magnetic standard. So this is the older generation EBS volume. Previously, when it all started, right? This was the only volume type that was available. So they still have it. I mean, you can pick it if you want just some cheap storage at a very low cost. You can still pick it, but then it will lack some limitations, right? Like you cannot have a lot of IOPS. So the volume delivers approximately 100 IOPS. That's all. So if performance requirement is higher than that, then this will not be the right fit. And your volume size can only be from 1 GB to 1 terabyte. So 1 terabyte is the maximum EBS volume size you can have. So these kind of limitations will hit you if you want to go with the previous generation, but you'll get a good cost. Again, once the hardware all fades out, right? I'm sure Amazon will remove or revoke the magnetic storage. Okay, coming back to this, where these are all the current ones that are.
Do we have provision like we have to suppose we have magnetic standard disks attached and we want to change to SSD of like provisioned IOPS? Can we have a provision for
Not
that
for
old
magnetic.
EC2 instance?
No, no, not for magnetic. You have to do
Only
it slightly
HDD to SSD.
differently. Correct. Within these generations possible, because here's the deal, right? That's an old technology, and if you want to still move things from magnetic SSD, you have to use some host-side tools to do the copy. Non-disruptive, yeah, if you plan it, but not from AWS. Okay. So here's a quick table that describes about each of these EBS volume types. So for general purpose SSD, like I said, it's a general purpose SSD volume that balances price and performance, right? Whereas your provision IOPS is highest performance. So you need high throughput workloads, low latency, a lot of IOPS. Then you go with this. Use cases is recommended for most workloads. That's why it's called general purpose. System boot volumes, all your boot volumes like C drive or your root file system in a Unix, they use general purpose SSD. So the only volume type that is supported for root volumes is general purpose SSD. You cannot use provision IOPS, you cannot use any of the HDD volume types. You have to use general purpose SSD for your root volumes. That's the standard. Okay. You can run virtual desktops, VDI environments, you can low latency interactive apps, development test environments. Here, critical business applications that need more than 16,000 IOPS or more than 250 megabyte per second throughput. Large database workloads like these, all the critical, databases, you can go for provision IOPS. The name is just GP2 and IO1. That's the name that Amazon has given. Volume size minimum you need to have 1 GB, and you can go up to 16 terabyte. I'm talking about a single volume. Now you can have maybe 4 EBS volumes, each of 16 TB, possible, right? But a single volume, maximum size is 16 TB, minimum is 1 GB. Whereas here it's 4 GB and 16 TB. So maximum IOPS that you can get per volume in a general purpose 16,000. This per volume. Whereas here you can go up to 64,000. Throughput is 250. Here you can go up to 1,000. Maximum IOPS per instance. So even though you have like 10 volumes and each can give up to 16,000, it doesn't mean that your overall instance level IOPS can go beyond like up to 1,60,000 IOPS. No, not possible. The whole instance aggregated IOPS will still be 80,000. Okay, it cannot, the whole instance IOPS cannot go beyond 80,000. Then your maximum throughput per instance is this.
Is
And
this
the
all
dominant,
tested? Means we are gone through any situation like it's giving more than 80,000 IOPS. Have you seen this case?
it can, right? But basically, it will just be a few. I mean, you won't see the deviation percentage to be 10%, 20%. No, because everything is software controlled, right? It's not the hardware. Hardware actually supports more than this. It's for the EC2 instance, so it's all software controlled. So they'll have some, uh, thresholds, quota set whenever an EC2 instance created.
Yeah, right, correct. Because those hardware must have a larger capacity or the larger threshold than this software.
Exactly.
Okay. They have written in some code that if the threshold is reaching, please stop taking some more inputs.
IO. Right.
More IO.
So this is about SSD. Similarly, on the HDD, so this one, the throughput optimized HDD is designed for frequently accessed, throughput intensive kind of workloads. But then if you need even more, just like, hey, I'm just gonna archive data, I'm not gonna use it as much, I'm not gonna access it as much, then the best is cold HDD. Put it there. So for throughput optimized volume type, streaming workloads, fast throughput, big data, data warehouses, log processing, these is what fall into the throughput optimized. Whereas cold HDD is for infrequently accessed data. Lowest storage cost is important for us, right? I wanted a very cheap cost relatively. And yeah, neither of these can be about volume.
Throughput intensive workload is nothing but the data size or the frame size is block size is too large, right? For the
Block
data.
size is higher. Correct.
Okay.
Now, if you see the minimum volume size, right, they say 500 GB. So yes, if you want to go for HDD, the minimum volume size is 500 GB. And maximum is up to 16 terabyte. So you cannot create a volume size of 200 GB HDD type, not possible. Maximum IOPS that you get is 500 here, 250 here, throughput 500 Mbps, 50 Mbps, 80,000 overall. These are same. So these are throughput optimized. So HDDs are more throughput optimized. So depending upon whether your application is IO hungry or throughput hungry and what performance does it require, you can use this table to determine which volume type should it fall into. Okay.
So the EC2 instance cost will vary depending on the disk we choose,
Absolutely.
and also the size.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can have multiple volume type, volumes in the same instance possible. So you can have, maybe a C drive of um, general purpose and a D drive of um, provision IOPS, another drive of another volume type. It's possible because you can have different workloads on different drives, right? So you can mix different volume types on the same instance.
Ideally, we should.
Yeah. Now, Depending upon the IOPS here, so basically there is a metric on how the 16,000 IOPS is calculated. Let's look at that. So let's look at general purpose IOPS. So basically, for every 1 GB, where is that value? Mm, okay, it's not here, but basically, right, in general purpose IOPS, the way the IOPS is calculated is for every 1 GB, you get 3 IOPS. Okay, for every 1 GB, you get 3 IOPS. So here's how you have to calculate, right? So let's say my requirement is only 100 GB in terms of capacity, but in terms of performance, my requirement is 900 IOPS. Okay, my performance requirement is 900 IOPS. My capacity requirement is only 100 GB. So now, with respect to performance, 1 GB gives me 3 IOPS. That's how Amazon calculates it. So how much capacity do I need to meet my 900 IOPS requirement? 300 GB. But my actual capacity requirement is only 100 GB. But then, since my performance requirement, takes precedence in this case, I have to buy 300 GB. Okay, I mean that's how Amazon makes money. They can't give you, they can't let you buy 100 GB volume and use 900 IOPS. No, they can't. So that's why you have to buy 300 GB to get a consistent 900 IOPS performance. Is that clear?
And actually, they have designed 1 GB, 3 IOPS per GB on the basis of software, not on the basis of hardware, right? They have decided this
Yeah,
threshold, software
correct.
threshold. This is 3 IOPS per GB. That's why they
Absolutely.
have, because there may be 100 IOPS per GB, but just to make the money for the capacity as well as from the performance point of view, they have kept this threshold. In future, they
Absolutely.
might increase.
Yeah, yeah, they might. It all boils
They
down to, like they're buying all the hardware, right? And they're keeping it, stocking it, available. Now, if you only buy 10 GB and but you want to use 10,000 IOPS, that
that
means
is not
10,000
possible.
IOPS is subtracted from someone else, right? Because we're all sharing the same hardware. So
Right.
he will have an impact. So to avoid all this, they have this ratio. And it varies for different volumes, but here it's 3 IOPS per GB. And so you have to buy what is the maximum of those two: storage requirement, performance requirement, what Amazon gives. So based on these factors, you have to decide how much storage you have to buy. Even though your storage requirement is less, you still may end up buying more because of that. So basically, you can start with 1 GB, right, on this volume type. So even if you have 10 GB, that doesn't mean that they only give you 30 IOPS. Minimum, they give you 100 IOPS. So they start with 100 IOPS. Okay, even though you bought only 5 GB volume, they still will give you 100 IOPS, but not beyond that. Now, to reach a 16,000 IOPS mark, you have to buy up to 5,334. Until then, there's a linear calculation. Once you go beyond 5,334 GB, let's say 6,000 GB or 6 terabyte volume, you will only get 16,000 IOPS. You can't get more than that because that's the max. Per volume, in this volume type, 16,000 IOPS is the max. Okay. Now, there is a concept called as burst bucket. Okay. So what burst bucket does is, so here you'll have this. So it basically accumulates IO credits. That means, um, so here if you see, right, you're basically given 3 IOPS per GB. That means you can use 3 IOs per GB, right? So let's say you bought a 100 GB EBS volume, so you get 300 IOPS per GB. Let's say you haven't used the whole 300 IOPS, so you have been running your application since a day, And throughout the day, you have never used 300 IOs. You are only using maybe 100 IOs, right? So that means you still have 200 IOs that gets accumulated in your bucket because you are paying for 300 IOs, right? But you're only using 100 IOs. The remaining 200 IOs, they will credit it in your bucket so that, let's say from tomorrow, you end up using 500 IOs. 300 is your cap, right? But 300 is 500 IOs. But 300 is your cap. So the remaining 200 IOs is used from the credit that you have. So this credit basically keeps accumulating the left of IO from what you have not used. Because you paid for 300 IOs, but you're only using 100. So the remaining 200 IOs every second is credited into your bucket. And they will be consumed when you need more. Now, tomorrow I need 500 IOs, but I know my baseline is 300. So the remaining 200 IOs is used from this bucket, from this burst bucket.
Is this bucket like shareable between the instances, or is it particularly for
Only per volume.
per volume? So means it's limited to one instance, right?
It is limited to one instance and only that volume. If I have 10
Only
volumes,
that
I
one.
cannot share this across 10 volumes, that particular volume.
So there will be 10 bucket.
Correct, for each volume. For each volume, one bucket.
And that IO credits is calculating on the basis of minute, hour, or day. How that credit
So
is
it's just
means how.
like per second, IOPS is per second, right? So every second, what you are not using gets accumulated.
Okay, for every second it is, and we can check which how many. If suppose tomorrow there, if
Mm-hmm.
suppose on
Mm-hmm.
25th Christmas there will be more much workload because people
Mm-hmm.
may shop on majority of the Walmart or all this DMart, all these things. So
Right.
during this there will be large number of transaction, and for that we want to use the credit score.
Mm-hmm.
So how will you know that what is my current credit score, and is there any mechanism? I want to know if currently I have 2000 credit score so that I can use the 2000 credit score tomorrow for the
Yes.
Christmas.
Yes. So there is a service called as CloudWatch, which provides some of those metrics. Absolutely.
Okay, like for monitoring.
Correct.
That's a valid use case, right?
We will discuss about CloudWatch. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, just I am saying that this is a valid use case.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a table, like just to give some, idea, right? So let's say you are going with 100 GB volume size, right? So the baseline you get is 300 because 100 into 3. Now burst duration when driving sustained IOPS. So let's say you have only used up to 2000 IOPS, right? So this is for uh, sustained 300 IOPS. So basically, again, so here's one more layer, right? So even though you want to use everything from your bucket, it's not that you can use 10,000 IOPS per second. No, they won't let you use 10,000 IOPS per second, even though you have like maybe some 1 million IOs in your bucket, in your credit. You cannot use all of them at once. Okay, there is a cap. That is, you can only have up to, depending upon the volume size, this much of IOPS at a time. You cannot consume the whole 1 million IOPS in 1 second. No, there is again a cap. So that is what this table outlines. Again, it's hard for us to remember all this, right? And we don't have to remember all this. Either you can refer to this coming back, or you don't have to worry about this because Amazon is handling all these thresholds and IO settings behind the scenes. So if you empty your IO credit balance, let's say there is no credit balance left, you're completely emptied out, Then once you go beyond your set baseline performance, that's it. I mean, it won't allow you anything beyond that. You are basically maxed out on your uh, baseline performance, and there is no credit balance remaining. So it basically will not allow any further IOs than what is given to you as a baseline.
Mahi, there is for 1 GB there is 100. I think I'm confused here. For 1 GB there should be.
So yeah, so basically for anything below 33.33 GB, they give you 100 IOPS as default.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is provisioned IOPS. So here, again, very similar concept, the whole bucket, and but here you have 50:1 ratio. So for every 1 GB, you are getting 50 IOPS. So for like a 100 GB volume, you will get 5,000 IOPS. There you would only get 300 IOPS, right? For 100 GB, here you can get 5,000 IOPS. So that's how much you can get, and you can go up to 1280 GB, which can give you 64,000 IOPS. And after this, everything max out at 64,000. You cannot go beyond that. Up to 1280 GB, it's a multiplication factor of 50. But after this to a 1.28 TB, whatever the size is, 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte, 4 terabyte, you will get 64,000 IOPS only. That's the ratio there. So for throughput optimized, basically the bucket is not based on IOPS, it's based on throughput. Okay, so as you can see here, baseline you get is 40 megabyte per second per TB. So it's talking about TB because the minimum size of this volume is 500 GB, right?
Could you please scroll down because I cannot see it. Yeah.
You can see it. Okay. So here the baseline performance is 40 megabyte per second per TB of storage. Since the minimum size anyway is 500 GB, right? It's just considering TB to round it off. So for per TB of storage, we get 40 megabyte per second performance. So depending upon what throughput you require, you may have to actually buy more storage, right? And again, same burst capacity, same concept, just the numbers vary. Okay. Again, the burst performance is maxed out at 240 megabyte per TB. So even though you have like 1 TB megabyte, 1 TB performance credits, right? You cannot consume all of them at once. You are still maxed out at 250 megabyte per second per TB. On the other hand, your cold HDD volumes can only give 12 megabyte per second per TB, right? Very low. And burst is only 80 megabyte per second per terabyte. Okay. So these are the different volume types and their corresponding performance metrics. Now, let's go back to our EC2 instance result.
For the IOPS based, that is the general purpose SSD and the provisioned IOPS, they have not given criteria of what is the throughput ratio. They have only given the IOPS, but what is the standard throughput for that? They have not given.
Because they don't measure in throughput, right? So basically, once you know IOPS, you can pick up throughput, right? Depending upon your block size. So what Amazon is providing is they are saying that those are dominant IOPS volume types. So all the calculation threshold that we're setting is more from a IOPS standpoint.
So they are not caring about the throughput. They are just caring about the what number of IOPS. They will decide on that.
Right, but there is still a cap on throughput, right? They don't publish it, but there's still a cap on throughput. That doesn't mean you can use, like 5,000 megabyte per second throughput. No, there's still a cap, but dominant one is IOPS. So that's why they are putting all the threshold settings at the IOPS level.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
So in this particular instance for Amazon Linux 2, the root volume is set as 8 GB. So the template that we are using, right? It has a default root volume of size 8 GB. That's why it's 8 GB. Now, if you want to increase this to a higher value, you can do that. But by default, it came with 8 GB. Now, if you pick Windows, by default, it will have 30 GB as an example for C drive. So it varies per AMI. This is a setting in the AMI. So 8 GB is what it is. And the volume type by default is general purpose SSD. You can make it to provision IOPS, but I wouldn't prefer that because my root volume is supposed to just hold the OS, right? Preferably, we don't install any applications on our root volume. So I would stick to general purpose SSD, but if you want, you can change. Also have magnetic standard. So I'll just stick to SSD. So this is how much you're getting, 100 IOPS, because this is general purpose SSD, and I mean, for the calculation, it should be 8 into 3, that is 24 IOPS, but the minimum they give is 100. And the maximum burstable up to 3000 using the bucket, burst bucket. Throughput, they don't publish. Delete on termination. That means if you terminate the EC2 instance, should it delete the root volume as well? I think so, yeah, because it's a root volume, right? It's not a data volume. So if I'm terminating the instance, then what is the purpose of my root volume to be alive? I want it to be deleted as well. Encryption, we will discuss about that later. You could actually encrypt your EBS volumes. So if you want to add more volumes, you can do that. So you simply click on add new volume. Now see the volume type is EBS. You can pick the device name. I would go with the next one, SDB. Then the size, let's say which one you want to pick. Based upon that, you have to select the size. So let's say I want to pick throughput optimized, and if I give 100, it won't work. I mean, the next, if I do right, it'll say it's not allowed. So this won't work. Minimum I need to have 500 for throughput optimized, right? For cold SSD also minimum 500. These ones not such requirement. So I can go for general purpose SSD and I can say I need 5 GB, right? Here I can select this or not. If I select this, that means when I terminate the EC2 instance, automatically this data volume also will be deleted. But I don't want that. I want to keep the data volume so that maybe I can reuse it, or I can attach it and then copy the data over to some other new server, however. Okay. So I have two volumes now, one root of 8 GB, one data volume of 5 GB. I'll go next. In the tag section, it's just giving a property name to your EC2 instance, really, right? Like the one that I would recommend for sure is name tag, because that's how you identify the server by name, right? So you want to tag it to the instances only or both instances and volumes. I want to tag it to both. Now you can add other tags also, like maybe, who's the owner of the server? Give it a name, like my in this case. Which department does it belong to, right? Maybe sales. So you can add more tags to just give some, description on a property value to your instance.
So
Not mandatory.
is there like a list available? Like what are the tags available?
It's custom. You create what you want.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's why I am giving the key as well as the value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can add what tags you want. Say next. Okay, security groups. So a security group defines which clients or which servers and which ports are allowed for this EC2 instance. So let's consider this is right now this is simply a Amazon Linux instance, right? So for me to be able to connect to this instance, which port needs to be opened? SSH port, right? Port 22. Port 22 needs to be open. So that's the only requirement in terms of ports. Now, if I also want to ping this IP, ping this EC2 instance, then the ICMP packets needs to be allowed. If I want to run a web service on this EC2 instance, That means port 80 and port 443, HTTP and HTTPS ports needs to be allowed. If I want to install database, 3306 MySQL needs to be, allowed. If I want to, if let's say there's a Windows server, I need the port 3389 RDP port to be allowed. So depending upon what you are using and what you would connect and what you would install setup on your EC2 instance, you need to select a particular port that you want to allow, right? Also, along with the port, if you see here, you have to specify the source, meaning from which IP range or which specific IP or maybe everyone, right? You want to allow to access over that port. Okay, for example, in this case, right? I would like to access this system from my PC, from my laptop. So then I can select my IP. It will automatically load my public IP. So now it will only allow me to connect. If you're trying to connect from your PC, it won't allow because I said only allow if the source is my IP. That's one. If you're running a web service, right? Maybe you're doing a port HTTP running, then you would want anywhere, right? Like once you create a website, you would want anyone in the world to access that website. That means you have to set like this, anyone, and then allow it for port 80. So you could select this as HTTP port 80 anywhere. You can add multiple rules, right? So let's say the first one is SSH. So that's fine. I'll leave it at that. And I will keep anywhere for now. Okay. And then I can add another rule. Say I would like to allow ICMP so people can ping. And this is also for everyone. Perfect. And then I will add a rule for HTTP port 80. Again, everyone. So I can keep on adding as many rules as I want. All the default application names are here, the more prominent ones. But if you have a custom port that you're using, you can say custom TCP rule and give the port number here, maybe 5051 port. Maybe you're running some application on that port on the EC2 instance that you would like to allow for certain IPs or everyone or IP range, right? So here
So
you
the
can.
security group is nothing but a firewall rules, right?
Yes, it's your firewall rules, absolutely. So if, for example, you're trying to connect to the EC2 instance from your on-premise network, and let's say your on-premise network is in the subnet range 10, 10, 10, 0/26, let's say. You can give it like that. That means any IP in that network subnet range will be able to connect over port 5051. You can add as many rules as you want. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this. I'm just gonna keep the first two, port 22 and custom ICMP. Now you can always create a new security group whenever you are creating a new EC2 instance, or you can use an existing security group, which makes sense, right? Using existing, if there is a similar server with the same security group configurations that you want, instead of creating a new every time with a different name, just create one as a standard and then attach it, right? So you can say select, and then you can attach, one of these security groups, and that's it. So next time when you're creating an experience, you don't have to create a security group. If there's a one already exists that matches your requirement, you can just pick that one, right? So here, if you're creating a new, you can name it, right? You can also add a description to this. Okay, and say next. Review and launch. So you can review all the details here that you have set in the previous. You can always go back to any particular one from here on the top. in order to change it or update it, and then finally come to review and then click on launch. Okay, so usually we have always seen the way you connect to any server is via credentials, right? You have a username and you have a password, and then you connect. Amazon feels that is not very secure. Okay, they want a little more uh, enhanced, secure way of connecting to the EC2 instances. That's where they bought this concept called public key authentication, or basically key authentication. So in a key authentication, what happens is, let's say you have server 1 and you have server 2. Okay. Now, server 1 wants to connect to server 2 without a password. Okay, without a password, server 1 wants to connect to server 2. Now, how can that be possible? Right? That's why we use the key-based authentication. So what we do is we generate a key in server 2. There are a lot of tools. There is keygen. There is Putty. Within Putty, there are certain tools that you can use. So you basically have to generate a key file, okay, in server 2. And that key file needs to be copied from server 2 to server 1. And now when server 1 wants to connect to server 2, it will use that key file to connect. And since that key file came from server 2, it will allow it, and you're able to connect without needing a password. Same concept here we use. Server 2 is nothing but EC2 instance. Server 1 is nothing but my laptop. So now what I'm doing is I can either choose an existing key pair. Okay, a key pair is it's a key file. So if I already have any of these key pairs in this laptop, I can use that. But I don't think I have maybe a lot. At least I don't remember if I have these key pairs already downloaded. So I'm not gonna say existing key pair. I'm gonna say create a new key pair, create a new key file, and I will call it, maybe my first EC2 INS, something like this, and say download, because I need this key pair in order to connect to these two instances, right? And if you see here, this will not be highlighted unless you download it, because if you don't know, how will you connect, right? So you need this. So you can say download key pair. See, it's downloaded, and then this is highlighted. So now you can say launch instance. So now you can go to the EC2 page from here, or you can just click on this hyperlink, which will take you there. And as you can see, it is currently in the pending state. That means it's still trying to spin up the server as well on the OS. So that will take maybe a minute or so. Now, I have the file, right? So I have the file here, .pem file. So depending upon
that key pair is downloaded for EC2 instance or for your desktop?
So this key file belongs to EC2 instance and is downloaded to my desktop, so I can connect from my desktop.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending upon if you're using a Linux machine, a Mac, or a Windows, right? There are certain steps that you have to follow. If it is a Mac or a Linux, you don't have to convert. If you see, right, the format of this file is .pem. That's the standard format that Amazon provides. So if you're using a Mac or Linux, you can directly use this key file to connect to the EC2 instance. But if you're using Windows, since Windows cannot interpret PEM file, it only works with PPK files. PPK, that's the format that Windows wants. So there is one more step in addition where you have to convert a PEM to a PPK. You have to use a tool called PuttyGen. Okay, it's a tool from PuttyGen. You have to load the PEM file. You have to input the PEM file and then convert it into a PPK file. There's two steps that you have to do. Okay, load the PEM file and then convert it to PPK file. That's it. Once you have the PPK file, now you can connect. But for Mac and Linux, you don't have to do that conversion. You can use the PEM file directly. Okay. Now, if you see, it's in the running state. So the EC2 instance is up and running, and this is the public IP that is automatically assigned from the pool of Amazon IPs. This is the IP. So this IP is what we would use to connect, because I'm not in the AWS network, right? I'm in my desktop. I'm in my own network. I'm not in the AWS network. So I have to use a public IP in order to connect. I cannot use this private IP. With this, I cannot ping the EC2 instance because I'm outside the AWS network, right? If I was inside, yeah, I could have, but not now. So this is the IP I have to use because I'm public. Okay. Now, how do I connect? So just give me a minute. I'm gonna use my item console. Okay. So the command is ssh -i and then the pm file name, my first ec2 and then the default user that is attached to this key pair file is this. This is the default user that Amazon creates, ec2-user, and then say @ and give the public IP. So this is how you connect to any Amazon Linux server. SSH -i the pem file space the username @ server IP. Say enter. Yes. Okay. So what did it say? It says permissions 644 for the pem file are too open. It is required that your private key file are not accessible by others. Hence, I'm not going to take this. So it didn't like the 644 permission on this file. Let's look at it. Right? It didn't like it. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to change that. I'm going to say chmod. I'm going to give a 400. That means only I am the owner. I can only read the file. No one else can even read the file. For security reasons, they won't allow it. Okay. So now say, right? So now it is set. Now let's run the command again. Should work this time. There you go. I am in. You can see the prompt, right? Says EC2 user @ IP. This is the private IP, you see. So I am in.
This you are connecting from your Mac terminal, right?
Yes.
That's why, because if we have to use, then we have to convert it into using that converter Putigen, and again then we can connect.
Yes.
Can we like change this username, or is it will be same?
Not the default user. Not the default user, but then you can have different users to connect. Again, more about that we're going to talk about in IAM, where you can create your own custom users. You can integrate with your Active Directory per se. So all that is possible. Yes, you can in fact create your own local users.
Mahi, could you please tell me the prompt? Just clear, enter, so that I can see what is the prompt.
Okay.
I cannot see the prompt because Mahi EC2. So EC2-user is the
Default
means
user.
this user. It's not root user. It's a default user. We have not created this user, right? Or you have not created this user?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So once you're in, I mean, you can do it, right? You can create your own users. You can, send in passwords.
Once we create our own user, then we can use that user to log into this instance.
Yes. Again, there are certain ways to do that. I guess when we talk about IAM, how the roles, user group policies come into play, you'll understand it better. because IAM controls access to your EC2 to S3, a lot of different services.
Okay.
Okay, and
Can
this
we
user is
stop because
also
it's
sorry.
yeah, please
Go
go
for it.
ahead. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So yeah, this particular user also has sudo privileges. So if you see, right, um, yeah, see, I'm part of the wheel group. So by default, the EC2 user is part of the wheel group, which has all is equal to all. So, I'm basically allowed to run any commands. I can also be, root. Sorry, see, I'm root now.
Could
So
you
yeah,
please
this user is
run the
giving us the privilege.
ID command?
Yeah, the output is here.
Yeah, I can. Okay. 1000. Okay. Okay. Means actually EC2 user is also root user because it's all the permissions.
You can assume root, yes.
Yeah.
It's part of the
Yeah.
wheel group, right? And wheel has all is equal to all permission. Okay, so yeah, this is how you connect, and basically now you can start running different commands to manage your EC2 instance. You can install applications, web servers, databases, however you would want. Okay, alrighty. I think we'll probably stop here.
Stop here. Yeah.
Okay, alrighty. Okay, so we'll meet again on Saturday then.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so
Okay.
Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. That's Friday for you.
Okay.